Morning, everybody. Esri Rozier here, and today it all begins. The Philadelphia Eagles will take on the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. Now, if you all remember correctly, it was against the Lions last year that we turned our 2021 season around. After a disastrous loss to the Las Vegas Raiders, a game where we let Derek Carr complete 31 of 34 passes, against the Lions, we began this offensive game plan of running the ball like nobody's business. It was the first of 7 straight games where we ran for at least 175 yards. The Eagles steamrolled the Lions 44-6 behind 236 total rushing yards. It was our first win against the Lions since 2013, the Blizzard Bowl, where LaShawn McCoy went off, and our first win at Ford Field since 2010 with Michael Vick. Now, that game, the run game was working so well. Our offensive line was dominating Detroit's defensive line so much that Jalen Hurts didn't have to throw much. I think he only threw the ball like 14 times. He had like 14 throws. He was a 9 for 14. He didn't have to throw a lot because the run game was just that effective. Now, that being said, I don't think that it's going to overpower the Lions that much again this time. I don't think we're going to have 200 plus rushing yards again. But this is a time where I could see the run game working well once again because the Detroit Lions, they didn't really do enough to improve their defense to me. Like they did draft Aiden Hutchinson at number 2 overall, who's going to be a stud. And I'm really surprised that the Jaguars passed on him. They took Trayvon Walker at number 1. But outside of that, the Lions, what else did they do to improve that defense? This defense, the Detroit Lions defense was not good last year. I believe they were 31st in points allowed and they were 21st in yards per carry. They really struggled on defense last year. And although they got a little better when they added Aiden Hutchinson, I still don't think that's going to make a difference. I can still see us running the ball well yet again. So last year, Miles Sanders was injured, but Boston Scott and Jordan Howard provided much of a spark in absence of Miles Sanders. And I believe that Jalen Hurts was the leading rusher that day. He ran for 71 yards. This day, I think that we can run the ball well against Detroit again, but I do anticipate Hurts having to throw the ball more this time because I don't think we're just going to run the ball just endlessly like we did last year. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to have to make those big throws. He's going to have to make those tight throws in this game. And listen, there's no excuses for Jalen Hurts this year. I believe in Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to have a great season. And I really expect big things from Jalen Hurts because this offseason, Howie Roseman really made it a priority to get him weapons, not just on offense, but on defense too. Like, so offense, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Quez Watkins, Miles Sanders, if he's healthy, Jordan Howard. We didn't re-sign Jordan Howard for some reason. I mean, I saw that he was working out with the Saints, but I was really hoping that we would re-sign Jordan Howard because we need that power type back. All of our running backs seem similar like Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell. They all seem like similar, but we need that power back. I'm not sure where Jordan Howard is now. Like I said earlier, the last time I read about him, he was visiting the Saints, but I'd love to re-sign him. But anyway, all these weapons like Jalen Hurts, he's got to deliver this year. He's got to deliver. I'm not worried about our offense, but the defense slightly worries me because the Lions, when it comes to where their talent is, I think most of their talent is on their offense because they have a tight end named TJ Hawkinson, who I really like. And then their running back, DeAndre Swift. I think DeAndre Swift is super underrated. DeAndre Swift is a baller. I love DeAndre Swift. That guy, he is a football player. And they have this receiver, St. Brown, I believe his name is. He's pretty solid too. He has a brother that plays for the division rival Green Bay Packers. Now, the Lions, they won't be with Jamison Williams for this game, which is a big blow to them because he was their first round draft pick. I mean, they drafted him knowing he was injured, knowing that he would probably miss this game. But once he comes back, I expect the Lions to have a pretty decent offense, an offense that can maybe like score 20 points from every now and then. But here's the thing about the Lions offense. Jared Goff is a quarterback who just falls apart when you hit him repeatedly. Once you send that pressure against Jared Goff, he just falls apart. Like we all remember that Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. After that one sack, where he got sacked, I believe, like 5 yards back, Jared Goff was not the same for the rest of that game. For the rest of Super Bowl 53, Jared Goff was rattled. If you pressure him, you will win because Jared Goff, he just unfolds under pressure. You hit him repeatedly, he will crumble. We saw this last year. So last year, I was a very, very vocal critic of Jonathan Gannon because I did not like his defensive schemes at all. We didn't blitz. We were the third least blitzing team behind the Raiders and the Texans. We didn't send any pressure. We had no like defensive line pressure. Like we were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year when it came to pressure from the defensive line. We just did not have that physical defense. Gannon, here's the thing I'll say about Gannon. So Gannon does not let us get beat on big plays. I'll give that to him. Jonathan Gannon, he does a very good job at avoiding getting beat on the big plays. But the problem with that is that Jonathan Gannon sells out so much to these big plays that he lets us get killed with this underneath intermediate stuff, like this short range stuff right down the middle. He gives quarterbacks this cushion room, all this time in the pocket to just destroy us in every game, it seemed like. In every game last year. The Lions game was one of the rare games where I actually liked Jonathan Gannon's defense. Jonathan Gannon actually had an aggressive defense against the Lions last year. He was sending linebackers like Alex Singleton and blitzes after Jared Goff. We were really pressuring Jared Goff, and that's why we won that game. Well, besides the dominant run game, but another reason we beat the Lions last year was because of the defensive line pressure. Jared Goff, he could not get into a rhythm because we were pressuring him so greatly. In fact, there was one play that Jared Goff, he threw the ball out of bounds on a 4th and 10. Why would you throw the ball out of bounds on a 4th and 10? Dude, it's a 4th and 10. If you don't get it, you're going to have to turn the ball over on downs anyway. I'd rather you just throw it up in the air and it get picked off. Like, at least try. Like, you're really going to throw a 4th down out of bounds? That was so spineless of Jared Goff. I was just disgusted when I saw that. I mean, it benefited my team, obviously, but it was just so cowardly of Jared Goff to throw that 4th down pass out of bounds. Just throw it up in the air. If it gets picked off, oh well. You were going to turn it over anyway if you didn't convert there. So Jonathan Gannon, he's one of my main concerns this year. I've seen you have an amazing defensive game plan against the Lions before. I saw it last year. You were very creative that day. And I hope that you can do it again because this game, I know a lot of people think that the Eagles are going to win this in a blowout. I don't think so. I don't think so because I expect the Lions to be that same gritty team that we saw last year. They did go 3-13-1, but the Lions, if you watch some of their games, they had a habit to take some really good teams down to the wire. Like the Baltimore Ravens, it took the Ravens, Justin Tucker kicked a 66-yard field goal, an NFL record, a 66-yard field goal at the buzzer to beat the Lions in that game. And I believe the Ravens also got away with a false start, but in their defense, though, Detroit did give up like a ridiculous 4th down. It was like 4th and 20 something, I think. And against the Super Bowl champion Rams, the Lions were leading that game in the 4th quarter. The Rams had to come back at home against the Lions in the 4th quarter. They beat the Minnesota Vikings on a last-second touchdown, and then they tied the Pittsburgh Steelers, another playoff team. So that's 2 teams I mentioned that went to the playoffs, the Rams and the Steelers, that the Lions, they really took to the wire. This team, they love their coach, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is a little goofy, but he rallies his troops very well, and they love that guy. And they're going to put everything on the line for him. So I don't think that this is going to be an easy game. I think that I can very well see this being a close game in the 4th quarter. I can very well see this being a one-score game, being a game that's decided on a field goal. Now, my prediction, though, I believe that the Eagles will win this game 26-20. And more importantly, we will get that 600th win. I mentioned this on Facebook, but the Eagles' current record all time stands at 599, 627, and 27. One win. We are one win away from 600 wins. We can join the 600 win club today. Are we going to let the Detroit Lions keep us out of the 600 win club? I don't think so, man. It's not going down like that. I believe the Eagles will be the only NFC East team to win today. The Giants are going to lose at the Tennessee Titans. And I think that the Jaguars are going to go into Washington and beat the Commodes. Doug Peterson is going to get his revenge on Carson Wentz. And I think the Buccaneers are going to beat the Cowboys. Now, some people have the Cowboys winning that game because Tom Brady, he's going with He's going through this like marriage problem with his wife. His wife is reportedly mad at him because he unretired. And my concern, even though I think the Buccaneers are going to win, my concern is that this whole situation with his wife, Giselle, my concern is that this is going to weigh on Brady and heavily affect his performance tonight. And then the Cowboys just stupidly win that game. That's what I hope won't happen. I don't think it will happen, but you never know, man. You never know. I mean, Tom Brady, he is 6-0 against the Cowboys. I mean, I'd love to see him go 7-0. I mean, I don't like Tom Brady, but I'll root for anybody against the Cowboys. So take care, everybody, and go Birds.